Welcome to the Wednesday Call Live. Now let's hear it for our special guest host, Adam and Beth Katz.
Hello, Alliance Nation. That is not Beth, nor is it Emily. she was promoted on the call as well. So just a quick update from Wednesday's TWC. We have a baby. Yay! Sarah Hartley has a newborn son. I don't know any details. He was literally born, I believe, 6 minutes ago. So Beth and Emily are over at the hospital with Sarah, doing those kind of things. So I went to the bullpen, called for the lefty, and we got Harry to pinch hit or to come in and relief. So mix our metaphors there. So for those of you who don't follow baseball, that's a baseball metaphor. Guys, we are just so excited to be talking to you again. I have with me today, obviously, Harry Cardillo, and we also have Dan Meerdo out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and Carolyn Parsons out of somewhere in Missouri, small little town outside of Kansas City is where she lives. And we're going to have some fun talking to these folks this morning, and hopefully giving you some mindset things to think about. We've all, well, one thing I will tell you is this, there's a lot of business in business. Okay, that's one of our favorite sayings. Is there's a lot of business in business. There's a lot of details. There's a lot of ups and downs. John Maxwell did a talk for us one time, and he said everybody, everything that's good is straight uphill. Okay, it's all straight up, and everybody thinks their business is going to be just have this trajectory, and we all want our business to grow like that, and to just be on a steady pattern up the hill. And the reality is, I don't know that this will show up on the camera, but I'm going to try and do this. Most businesses are more like this. Okay, they're all over the map. I know you guys can't see it, but you saw me draw it. And what you saw is just squiggly. You're up, you're down, you're in the middle, you're back up, and then you get kicked back down again. It's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Here's the thing about 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You're still 1 step forward. See, and that's where so many people lose their mind because of hiccups in their business. And understanding that there's going to be hiccups in your business and anticipate them and be ready for them. Do you know any Debbie Downers out there? No offense to the Debbies, but the Debbie Downers out there who are always just down in the dumps and mopey and all that. And it's just like, oh, I knew that was going to happen. Here's the thing that confuses me when people use that phrase, I knew that was going to happen, because, it's always, by the way, it's never in a positive sense. You never hear people, I just won the lottery. I knew that was going to happen. I just got $2.4 billion. I just hired the next Ryan Chang. I just hired the next Mike and Noel Leventovich. I knew that was going to happen because I've been working hard. We never use that terminology in that sense. We always use it when something negative happened to us. I knew it was going to happen. Too good to be true. This is why we can't have nice things, right? All that kind of mindset. But what blows my mind about things like when people say, "Oh, I knew that was going to happen," then what are you so upset about? You knew it was going to happen. You should have been mentally prepared for it happening, since you already knew it was going to be happening. Does that make sense? And yet we twist our minds up so badly when we have a hiccup in life and a hiccup in business that we lose focus, and it totally derails what's been working so well. And so what I wanted to chat with these 3 folks about this morning with you guys is how do we get back on the line? If you think about this, you're trying to go from point A to point B, and it's a straight line. And the straight line is the fastest way to success. Okay, from starting to success, you want to be on a straight line. Okay, by the way, the longest line. The longest path to success is a shortcut. So many people, they try and shortcut. Let me tell you guys this. The Alliance is the shortcut. You found it. Now you got to do it. Okay. See, because the alternative is working for the next 40 years at a rut job that you don't like, that's not getting you anywhere, that's not giving you lifestyle, that's not giving you freedom or anything like that. You found the shortcut, but you can't shortcut the shortcut any further. Now you got to sell, recruit, and build to take advantage of it. Okay. And so if you understand, to go from here, getting started, to success is a straight line. The key is this. How quickly, how long can you stand on the straight line and stay on the straight line? And then when you get off the straight line, how quickly can you readjust and get back on it? See, and that's where the psychology of who we are and what we do becomes so important. That's why the books are so important. The books that Andy recommends reading. Guys, he has a whole book list. If you've read the 8 Steps to Success, and shame, everyone knows your name. If you haven't read the 8 Steps to Success, nobody knows your name. But you know whether you did it or not. And I don't know anybody who's been successful with the Alliance that hasn't read the book and doesn't follow the principles within that book. And reading is one of those things. Step 4 is read. There's a whole book list in the book. In chapter 4, Andy, has a whole book list of books that he recommends you read. And then he'll talk about newer books that pop on the scene. He was talking a lot recently. He's been talking a lot about The Courage to be Disliked, and that is an awesome mindset book. I'm driving my son to read it twice. I told him I'll do this with you if you'll listen to this book twice. Not just once, he needs to hear it twice. And so if you're listening to audio and you're reading books and you're attending all the meetings, and congratulations, you guys have chosen to be on the activity call today. That's a choice. A lot of people didn't make the choice to be on the activity call. Now, those of you who watch the activity call later, congratulations, you made the choice to associate at a different time. I personally believe Andy Albright has mentored me over the years that if you can watch it live, it's 1,000 times better than just watching a recording of it later. Why is that? Because when you're watching a recording of it later, deep in your psychology, you know it's not a live show, so you can be doing other things. If there's just something about watching it as it's happening, you're more likely to take notes, you're listening more intently, it's just sinking in better. And then you can go back and re-listen to it later. So I would encourage you to watch these events live and to get your team, promote it to your team that they watch it live as well. And so getting your mind to a place that you can deal with a hiccup, you can deal with the negative, and it knocks you off the line, but then you can immediately get back on the line. And that's one of the things. And for some of us, it takes a while to get back on the line. And others are very quick and very good at being able to bounce back. That's one of the biggest things that I respect about Andy Albright. That I guess I should introduce myself. I'm Adam Katz, Adam and Beth Katz. Beth and I have been part of the Alliance since Andy started the company in July of 2002. So going on 24 years in the Alliance. Beth and I go back 34 years with Andy and Jane through other businesses. I actually taught school with Jane Albright at Lillington Middle School. Back in the day, she was an 8th grade science teacher. I was teaching 7th grade social studies. And Andy talked to us about getting into business with him, and we just fell in love with his heart, with his passion, with his vision. We knew Andy Albright was going to be successful. And we decided, Beth and I made a decision, we wanted to be part of that, and we wanted to be part of his world. And we were going to do whatever we could to earn the right to be part of that world. And that is something that you have to do. Love is given, respect is earned. Okay, love is given, respect is earned. So if you can be part of the world, but if you want to be part of the inner circle, you're going to have to earn that piece. That makes sense. So we've loved the ride with Andy and Jane. It's been a blast. I've learned so much from Andy, just watching him, how he interacts with people, how he deals with things. And one of the things that I will tell you he does better than anybody I personally met, I'm not saying better than anybody in the world, but anybody that I personally met, is this: his ability to get knocked off the line and immediately focus on getting back on that line as quickly as possible. He is the best I've ever seen at being able to put things behind him and get back on the line. And so that's something that I've worked hard to do, to get better at. I'm a work in progress, as most of us are. But it's been a blast watching Andy work the way he works, and it's an unbelievable blessing to have a mentor and a coach that will pour into your life, like Andy has with me personally, but also with all of us on this call. Harry married my daughter Emily, and Andy's always said Emily is his favorite cat. Just watching Andy pour into Harry and Emily and that next generation of knowledge, being able to take advantage of his experience and what he's accomplished has just been so incredible. So getting back on that line, understanding it's okay to get knocked off the line. Life's going to come at you fast. We got a call last night, 11:30. So not to get too deep in the weeds on this, but things were supposed to happen on Thursday. Yesterday morning, in fact, we had a plan. She was supposed to be in the hospital. Sarah, our daughter Sarah, who just gave birth to our second grandson, was supposed to be in the hospital at 4 a.m. Yesterday morning, and the hospital was backed up, and they're like, we're not doing any inductions, blah blah blah, and so everything was called off, and so we had to adjust. See, life comes at you fast. You think you have a plan, and then you got to readjust the plan. So we're thinking it's now going to be Monday, unless Sarah goes early, and we're just going to be hanging out, making phone calls, talking to people, doing what we need to do. And then we get a call last night, 11:30, and the hospital called and said, be here by 12:30. So now we're scrambling, packing things up, and getting everything ready, because we got to take care of Michael, the 3-year-old also. We can't just all leave him sleeping in his bed. I think that's against the law. So we had to make adjustments. See, we were knocked off the line, and it was like, how quick can we get back on the line? And it's the same thing in business. You're going to get knocked off the line. You're going to have a chargeback. You're going to have a canceled policy. Somebody's going to no-show you. Somebody's going to quit. Things happen. It's okay. It's part of the process. Don't hate the player, hate the game. It's one of those things where you just got to be able to get your mind over that and get back on the line as quickly as possible. So Dan, let's start with you. Dan, real quick, give us like a 90-second primer on you and Deanna. Tell us about your family. You got 2 beautiful kids, where you live, and how long you've been with us, and maybe just a quick what you were doing before you got into the Alliance.
Yeah, Adam, thank you so much. We're Dan and Deanna Meerdo out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We've been with the Alliance since 2018. Prior to the Alliance, we were in the restaurant fields. We had a restaurant down in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Deanna is Russian. She was an English teacher or a translator, and she's been in the U.S. since 2010. It was, as far as us go, the question was, repeat the question, Adam. I'm so sorry.
Well, just how long have you been with the Alliance?
Since 2018.
2018. So in 6 years, I guess we're going on to 8 years now. I can do math. Your first year, not so good. When did you start having good success with us?
It was probably COVID time. So I think that's, it was probably not the COVID year, not 2020. Well, maybe end of 2020. The summer of 2020 is when we made a decision that we could be good at this.
Mm-hmm. And Dan has become one of my dearest friends. We just love hanging out. We laugh all the time. And they used to live in Myrtle Beach, which is an hour and a half from where Beth and I live. They moved back home back to Dan's home in Pittsburgh, so they're not quite as close as they used to be. But you've had some good success. How many trips have you guys gone on? How many years have you made 6 figures with us?
We made 6 figures the past 3 years, and we've earned, including Thailand, I think we've earned 4 trips. We've been on 3 on the COVID year. We had COVID, so we couldn't go.
Okay. And you did not qualify Cabo.
No.
You had a lot of life go on the year of Cabo qualification. That's when you guys made the decision to move back to Pittsburgh. So talk about that transition, the distractions, how you came up, not how you came about the decision to move back, but what all was involved in terms of how it impacted your business. and really what it did to your cash flow and all of those kind of things, during that transition.
Yeah, well, one of the things that maybe I took for granted or I didn't expect was just how much life was going to change when we moved, and how much I don't want to say distractions, it's the wrong word, but how much other obligations were going to take my attention, from figuring out where the kids were going to go to school, to their sports, to their friends, to one of the weird things that I didn't think was going to happen is, every time we came home, whether it was for Christmas or a holiday or a wedding, it was a vacation, right? It was a vacation from work. It was a vacation from life. And now that we lived here, it was just, how do I make it not a vacation? How do I get back to work? And how do I, and then obviously you got to figure out the new lead systems and the new market. And it was a lot at once, and we survived, but it was, we didn't thrive the way we had been.
Cash flow took a dip. So you had a lot of money going out. Obviously, moving is not cheap. You had to find a new place to live. There's upfront costs and all of that. So all of those things were going on, and it also kind of separated yourself from your support system in business as well. Obviously, we were seeing you in the office at least once a week, almost every single week, sometimes twice a week, and you knew you could always get a hold of us anytime, get and see us. So how did that impact things as well for you? Kind of separating out where you went from an hour and a half away to now 10 hours away.
Yeah, and one analogy that I thought about whenever you asked me to do this call is, if you go to a public pool, you'll see the adults tiptoeing into the pool, right? And they look like they're getting tased as they're walking in, and you can't, it's too cold, I guess, right? And they take 45 minutes to get into the pool. And then you see the kids that get out of the car and they run and just jump straight into the pool. And, thinking about it, I think it's all just about excitement, right? The kids are excited. It's the best thing they've ever seen in their life. And I think whenever I moved away, not that the excitement went away, but to your point is, now I had to manufacture my own excitement. Now I had to purposefully, intentionally do the things that, I'll be honest, you provided for me without me even trying. And so that's the conventions became that much more important, right? When I was able to see Adam Katz twice a week, I had a convention every week, right? I had a keynote speaker every week talking to me. And not that I lost that, but it's different. Like you said, it's different over the phone than in person. So I had to take these calls way more seriously. I had to take my time at the convention more intentionally, more serious, right? So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So be as transparent as you're comfortable. Obviously, you missed the Cabo trip, so you didn't have. So production was down. I don't know what that was. That your worst income year of the last 4, or?
No, I mean it was of the last 3, it was the worst, right? But we were trending up, and it was the first setback that we've had since we started this business, right? Every year since 2018, we either were doubling or at least on a nice, yeah, exactly, right? Which means our bills were going up, which means our expenses were going up, right? And then we made a crazy idea to move, and that now we were scrambling, and we were still making decent money, but just not what we were projecting, not what our bills thought we should be making.
So this year, 2025, what did you end up making? What was your
177,000.
177,000, not bad. That beats a sharp stick in the eye, as we like to say. And you qualified for Thailand. Can't wait to go. We're going to Thailand. So we're gonna have a blast hanging out with you and Deanna in Thailand. The other things you've done is Deanna's gotten this new American initiative. I know Deanna's gotten very more involved, more engaged in working in the Russian community. She speaks Russian, so she has has the ability to communicate and tap into another cultural network that a lot of us don't have that ability to do. So talk to us about, how did you get unstuck? You know, you kind of finished 24 on a low, missed the trip, cash flow was tight, all of that. How did you get unstuck to bounce back like you bounced back in 2025 and create, the reality is this created a lot of momentum heading into 2026?
Yeah, and I think it's, for me, it was as simple as what I just talked about with the pool analogy. Is every time my excitement level was low, my results were low. Every time. Right. And it's, when my excitement increases, that's when the results come. And so, again, with the conferences and these calls, and it's just, we talk so much about the 8 steps, and they're simple, right? They're very, very simple. Those ones are probably even easy, but what we've always said is what's even easier is not doing them. And it's like clockwork. Anytime I'm struggling, anytime I'm in a dip, I'm not doing the 8 steps. I'm not on the calls, right? So it's just being intentional, right? To get out of it for me was just to be intentional, to trust the process, to know, hey, we've had success here. And every time we've had success, this is what we did first. So fall back on that.
How about real quick, talk about Deanna coming down to the cabin event, the ladies' cabin event, and what that did for her personally, but also what it did for you as a couple in business together, with her coming home from that.
Yeah, we always say that this business is caught, not taught. And for her, that's, and I don't know what happened at that cabin. I don't know, what they were doing.
What happens at the cabin stays at the cabin, so we'll never know.
Whatever happened got her, right? It was the bait that got her, and her mind went from a logical, pragmatic to an emotional in a good way, in a let's go out, let's go crazy, where she didn't care about what bad things could happen, right? Her fear went away. Maybe that's the best way to put it. Her fear went away, and the things that she knew she would be good at, she just had the confidence to go out and do it.
That's awesome. And so what did that do for you when she got back home from that with this newfound boldness and courage? How did that impact you in the way you were pursuing business?
Yeah, I mean, just excitement level through the roof. Right. And go figure, cash flow and premium through the roof. Right. So it was just same thing. Is it, when both of us are on fire like that, it just, bad days aren't allowed. Right. They just can't exist when one of you or both of you are, chasing your dreams.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We always say 1 + 1 = 11. When you get a husband and wife, or partner, it doesn't have to be husband and wife, you get 2 partners focused on the same thing together. 1 + 1 is not 2. 1 + 1 is 11, and it shows in the growth of the business and the growth of the organization. All right, thank you, Dan. Appreciate that. Carolyn Parsons, real quick, introduce yourself. Tell us about your beautiful family, your stud husband, and your kids, and all of that stuff, and then we'll get into it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Adam, for inviting me on. I'm excited to be here. I'm Carolyn Parsons out in Cleveland, Missouri. It's about, Cleveland, not Ohio, Missouri. It's about an hour south of Kansas City, just right under an hour. So I joined the Alliance March of 2022, recruited my husband, Nick, in, March of 23. And we've got 4 beautiful kids. We've got a 12-year-old, 9-year-old, 7-year-old, and a 2-year-old. So we're busy. We're busy. Real busy. But we've been just really loving being around the team and growing, and just really Nick and I getting on the same page, so we're really, really excited to see what this year looks like now that we're kind of more aligned, unified in vision. So.
All right. So I was looking at some numbers. In 2024, you and Nick paid $16,000. And last year, you guys were right at $140,000. So you went from $16,000 to $140,000. And I know 2024, it wasn't, You weren't working another job though. You had a new baby, so definitely a blessing, but also a distraction. So what kind of change? Obviously, you weren't making money with us. You only issued 16,000 in a year, so you weren't cash flowing. What is it that kept you around? Because a lot of people have this thought process. But by the way, guys, Andy Albright says this. This is an Andyism. We have 100% success rate with people who don't quit. 100%. So what is it, Carolyn, that kept you around through that dry season of 2024? And then what is it that changed for you to be able to issue close to $140,000 of premium in 2025? And if you want, talk about some of the stuff you and Nick had to deal with in 2025 as well. It's not like you were distraction free. First of all, you still had the baby. The baby was older, but it was still a baby, baby Ruth. And then Nick had some stuff he was dealing. So how were you able to get unstuck from where you were rolling into 2025 to finishing the year at such a high?
Right. I mean, a few different things. Like what kept me around, honestly, is kind of what you just said, knowing, because I listened to my coaches, knowing that there's 100% success rate if I don't quit. I'm like, okay, I'm not leaving because I believe in this. I'm seeing it happening right before my eyes. And I want a piece of this. And just the environment, the people, Linda Goebel, Bob West, Dan, so many of my friends that encouraged me and were right there loving on me, you and Beth, that loved on me, even if I wasn't doing much, but staying plugged in was a huge reason why I stuck around. I remember there was a little season where I stopped joining my team calls with Linda Goebel. And I almost quit. I almost went and got a job because I wasn't plugged in. I know I wasn't plugged in. But once I made the decision to stay plugged in, even though I wasn't doing the activity, even though I wasn't working, staying plugged in, it made me want to have a piece of it and not want to leave. So staying plugged in really and being a part of that is what kept me around, even though I wasn't making the production. I mean, 2023 and 24 was rough. We were kind of newlyweds, Nick and I, and then we had a new baby, and I made the decision that I wanted to be with the baby. But then as she got older, I just kind of started, the distractions, the obstacles between me and working and being successful, they weren't worth it to me. I let them become bigger than the success that I could have if I had just pushed past them. So I stayed home. I didn't do as much. I did little bits here and there. We had some stuff going on with my 3 older kids, their dad, some legal stuff that got real messy. But staying plugged in was huge. Getting coaching, talking to you and Linda and some other people that just would help encourage me and uplift me and remind me that don't quit. You'll be successful if you don't quit. Now, if we're talking 2025, I think what really propelled us forward was Nick and I, he joined the business officially. I think it was November of 24 is when he got his license. This is when he officially got his license. So his health took a nosedive, just a complete nosedive. It was a year journey of trying to figure out what was wrong. So he joined as, he got his license. He started writing some business. But in January of 2025, we went to the conference together for the first time together. I had missed 5 or 6 conferences. I just didn't go. I didn't make it a priority. We made the decision to go. We went on our last dime. We had people putting us up in a hotel, paying for our food, but we went. And that is what helped us in 2025 was getting to that conference and being there and just getting a taste of it. Like Dan was saying, we caught it. We caught the success, the business mindset, and that helped us get through. And then then again in April, and then again in July, then again in October, every time we went to the conference is what helped us get through the obstacles. We went through a lot of obstacles in 2025. We had Nick's health was really bad. Nick ended up being in a wheelchair for several months. So he was just really struggling. So kind of felt like I was on my own for a little bit, but then, he went to AIT, and let me tell you, he's a changed man. So that's what's really helping us. I can already see it in 2026 is going to be incredible because we're on the same page. He's got his fire back. He is killing it, recruiting and doing the 3-foot rule. So we're fired up about killing it this year.
Awesome. So Nick is out of the wheelchair now. Just crazy. It took him forever to figure out what was causing it and what his health issue was. But now, and he's not perfect yet. And he's, what is he? Just turned 29? Just turned 30?
He just turned 30 today.
So today. Happy birthday, Nick. He was young and healthy and vibrant, and all it. It just kind of, which has to be devastating to a family. And then you're out there trying to run appointments and serve other people and keep your mind right on that while he's dealing with all that. So I congratulate you. That you are a studette, as we like to say. You just, I know you didn't have the year you wanted to have, but I also know that you've grown so much. Just having a conversation with you today versus having a conversation with you, last year, it's just night and day. The mental growth that you've had in your vision. It's going to be exciting to see what 2026 holds for the Parsons family and the Parsons team. Portugal definitely on your radar.
That's right.
Portugal.
No doubt in my mind.
Portugal will be your first trip. Do you have a passport?
Not yet.
Okay, you and Nick need to get passports.
We need to get passports.
So one of the first trips that we went on, there was a guy who showed up at the airport. It was a trip, I believe, to Bermuda, and this is like a 45-year-old man, and he's like 6 feet, 6 feet 6 inches, and he shows up with his birth certificate with his baby feet, and hoping to be able to get on the airplane. And they were like, "That's not a passport." So, hey, if you're gonna fly international with the Alliance, you need to get your passports. And if you're wondering, can I win the trip? Here's one thing: how about an act of faith? Go ahead and get your passport now. You're gonna need it to go to Portugal with us. Why don't you go ahead and get it now as an act of faith? And planting that good seed into your business because it's coming for you. So that is awesome. Just tremendous growth business wise, tremendous growth personally. And you and Nick are just fun to hang around, and that's one of the things. The other thing she mentioned was Nick going to the AIT. So for those of you who are not familiar with that acronym, it's the Albright Intense Training. It's a week-long event. I know Andy is doing one. I don't have the date in front of me, but check events, allianceevents.com, theallianceevents.com, and Dan's probably going to look it up for me. He's good that way, and we'll get that date out there. But obviously, we got National Convention coming up next week. You've heard Dan talk about the importance of coming to conventions. You've heard Carolyn talk about the importance of coming to conventions, being around the bigger team, getting your mind right, You have a choice to make next week. You can come to Dallas, Texas with us and be in that environment, or you can choose to not associate and think that that's going to help you get where you want to go. Nobody's going to be mad at you, whatever you end up doing. And I understand everybody has circumstances that happen in their lives. But here's the beauty of it. I read this in a book. We've been talking a lot about the books. People do what they want to do. Always. People, nobody can make you. The only thing you have to do is breathe. That's the only thing you have to do. Your body physically will force you to breathe. And you can hold your breath, then you'll pass out and your body will start breathing on its own. So you have to breathe. Everything else is optional. Now, what a lot of people don't like is this. It's a 2-for-1 deal. Everybody likes a good BOGO, buy one, get one. Your choices are a 2-for-1 deal. Every choice comes with a consequence. You make a choice, it has consequences. If you don't like the consequences, start making different choices. See, that's the beauty of it. You get to choose how you choose. You get to choose your mindset. You get to choose your attitude. You get to choose whether you read today or not. You get to choose whether you jumped on the activity call today. You get to choose whether you go to Dallas next week. But I can't afford it. I can't. Okay. Do you want to go? That's the first question. If you want to go, then get with your growing upline, get with the person that you do coaching with, and say, I really want to go. Can you help me think of creative ways to make this happen? we've been doing this a while. We got some creative ways to help you make things happen. And if you really want to go, but we can't force you to go, and we can't talk you into going. You got to want to change your life. You got to want to have that impact on yourself. So proud of you, Carolyn. You and Nick. Happy birthday, Nick. And excited to see what 2026 holds for the Parsons. All right, Harry Cardillo. Do you remember what Emily made in 2024? I don't have that number.
I want to say it's 150.
Okay, so Emily as a engaged woman, and Harry was in the picture. When did you guys first start dating? Well, introduce yourself first. Tell us what your background is, where you're from, all of that stuff.
So I am Harry Cardillo, and my better half Emily. She's at the hospital doing her favorite thing, hang out with a baby. We are out of Raleigh, North Carolina. I've been in the business for about 4 years now. Before I started, I was working as a butcher back in the cold meat room, so I'm happy to be out of there. And like I like to say, I recruited Emily, and then she recruited me. So that's kind of where we're coming from.
Awesome. And so you guys got engaged in the middle of 2024, yes. And you got married December of 2024. In the mountains. It was cold, but it was beautiful. Yeah, it was beautiful. And so 2025 was your first year as a couple, as a married couple. And before that, you were running separate businesses. You did a lot together, but Emily was doing her deal. You were doing your deal. How much did you make in 2024?
How much did I make in 2024?
Yeah,
maybe 20.
Maybe 20,000.
Yeah,
okay. But he was
from the Alliance.
But he was working hard. He just so talk to us about 2024. What was, because you weren't afraid of the work. One reason I knew you were a keeper, because I'm a dad first. I'm an upline second, business owner, all of those kind of things. But first and foremost, I want to make sure that my girls are taken care of and my girls are happy. And one thing I always admired about you, Harry, was you had an unbelievable work ethic. You weren't the most skilled salesperson in the world, but you weren't afraid of the work. And I grew up in this business being afraid of some of the work that was required. I had to overcome that. I had to change my mindset. I had to just, embolden myself, get some courage about me. So talk to us about kind of what some of the things that you were kind of stuck on in 2024 that has changed for you more so in 2025.
What I would say is some of the things I struggle with. So I was running about 8 appointments a day, right, and maybe hopefully selling one of them. That's kind of where I was at the time.
You were pretty steady at selling one. It was usually about a $38 a month check.
Correct. So, yes, that was my game. A nice little accidental policy. Sneak that one into the flyer. But I'd say a lot of my struggles at the time, it was just, what I love is, I've heard this from multiple different people in the business, is everybody pays a price, right? And at the time I was just paying my price, right? My natural personality is not outgoing or extroverted, and I was never one who went to parties or would strike up conversations with people. That wasn't who I was, right? So it's going through the growing pains, right? Which a lot of people are not willing to do. So putting myself through that, it was just a part of the process. And during that process too, there were moments where I fell into moments of, and I think everybody falls into this, isolation, right? You go through a day of appointments, 8 appointments, 7 no-shows. The one guy you sat with, he's got a negative bank account balance. I think we've all been there before.
Yeah.
And you tend to get to that end of the day and you're like, man, is this for me? Am I good at this? What am I doing wrong? And you kind of just pull back and not talk to anybody, right? The way I think about that, it's almost kind of like if you've ever been stuck in the mud, right? And if you're stuck in the mud, you can sit there in the car and you can just keep hitting the gas pedal, hitting the gas pedal, hitting the gas pedal. And guess what? You're just getting dug deeper into the mud. So what do you got to do? You got to go get help, right? You have to lean on your leadership. You have to go back to what you, open up a YouTube video, figure out how to get unstuck, right? Go to your resources. That's some of the stuff that I wasn't doing as much of at the time, and I've got much better about. And really what changed that was association. Coming to conferences, having leaders around me like Adam, like Andy, being able to lean on people is really kind of what got me out of that rut, I would say. But yeah.
So that was big. And, obviously Emily was well entrenched in the Alliance. She grew up in the Alliance. She's been coming to conferences since she was 9 years old. So she knew this was what she was going to do. But she never pressured you, I don't believe. I mean, this is counseling. Nobody's listening. Just you and I.
Just the two of us.
She never pressured you to join the Alliance and that this is what you had to do. I think a lot about Haley and Brandon. Haley, the Manleys, Andy wanted Brandon to be a part of the business. But he was very successful at a prior job, prior company career, and he was making very good money. And it was something Brandon had to get to himself. So it's I see the same thing with you. We wanted you to be part of it because we know how important this business is family to us, and we knew Emily was well engaged in what we were doing. But it was something you had to get to on your own and decide on your own. So what were some of the things that kind of kept leading you towards thinking the Alliance could be a good fit for you long term?
So what I'll say is I came to my first convention before I got started in the business. I think it's kind of almost an advantage, right? Getting to a convention as fast as you can, because seeing is believing, right? I met people like Dan, other six-figure earners in the business, Mike Marisi, Mike Leventovich, people who had built massive organizations. So just getting involved and being around the people is really kind of what built the dream for me and kind of made me start going like, hey, like, this is something I can do, right? And working the job that I was working previously over in Publix, great company, all that stuff like that. But I was already sitting there thinking, spinning my wheels, how do I get out of this place? So it just being at that first conference, really, it was kind of like my escape ladder. I was like, this is what I can do. I can figure this out. I can make it happen. That's kind of where my belief started in the business. And you're exactly right. Emily has never a day in her life pressure me into doing anything in this business. It's all been just my own personal belief from being around the people, right?
Yeah. And you knew we wanted you to be part of the team, yes, but you were always going to be part of the family, whether you were part of the team or not.
Correct.
I saw Andy handle Brandon the same way. And now, Brandon and Haley run one of the biggest organizations in the Alliance and just an unbelievable leader and all of those things. So it's understanding. I love what you said earlier about everybody's got a price to pay. And some folks pay that price in a prior career, a prior business. We did, Beth and I, we did Amway. That's how we first got connected to Andy and Jane. And we paid a price there that never really paid any benefits to us. But it was the growth curve that we went through over there that put us in a mental position, mindset, a business mindset, as well as changing our, the people skills and everything else about us, the self-image, all of those things. We paid our price there. So when we got to the Alliance, we were better positioned to take advantage of this opportunity. And I'll be honest with you, we weren't get out of the gates strong either. If you're wondering, can I overcome a slow start? Yeah. Beth and I were very much team players. We were accountable. We were reliable. Andy didn't have to wonder where we were going to be. He always knew we were going to be where we were supposed to be, but we weren't always the most effective workers. And we had to, we started as school teachers and we were scrambling. It wasn't day one success. And then there's ups and downs in business too. We were just smoking this business from 2002 to 2007. The Alliance had an unbelievable run. You've heard Andy talk about it multiple times. The economy was booming. The mortgage market was booming. We were in mortgage protection insurance, leads and all of those kind of things. And we were bulletproof until 2008 happened and the whole economy imploded. And all of a sudden, we weren't bulletproof anymore. All of a sudden, we had to take a good look at ourselves and decide, who are we going to be? And, the blessing for me is I had Andy Albright steering the ship. The blessing for the Alliance is that we had Andy Albright at the helm. And he really steered us through choppy waters. There were other companies similar to the Alliance, similar size to the Alliance, that did not survive the economic meltdown of 2008. They got totally out of the industry altogether. But we not only did we survive, we have thrived, coming through all of that. But it gave us perspective on that, getting your emotions in check. Okay. We talk about keeping your mind right. There's running through the streets naked. Hey, I just wrote a $600,000 annuity. I'm getting a $30,000 commission check. Now you're running through the streets naked and creating a fuss and all of that. And then, the bank won't transfer the money. The guy decided to cancel it. And now you're jumping off a bridge. And it's just, here's what I'll tell you. It's not that good and it's not that bad. Calm down. I always had this conversation with people because inevitably the insurance companies mess up the underwriting on something that's a big piece of business. And before the New American Initiative, we used to think like a $300 application was a big piece of business. They have kind of changed our perspective on what a big piece of business is. And thank you very much. God's hand on us. And I remember having this conversation with so many agents, and they're like, they messed this up. They made a mistake on this. They messed up the draft and all this. And it was like, it was $300 a month policy, which was going to be a big payday for the agent. And I understand all that. But I asked them, I'd say, hey, before we continue on this conversation, let me ask you this. Are we having this conversation of it's a $30 a month check? And the answer 99% of the time was no. Well, if it's not a conversation we need to have on a $30 check, then it's not a conversation we need to have on a $300 check. It's one application. And understanding, being able to level out your emotions, not make the high so high and the low so low, but kind of make it, there's always going to be highs and lows in everything you do. There's highs and lows in your relationships. There's highs and lows in dealing with your kids. There's highs and lows with your friends, sports, things that are important to you. There's highs and lows in business and finances and all of that stuff. It's just not being so blessed emotional about everything, where you're living and dying with every yes and every no, every phone call that you make, that, hey, I'm having a great conversation. Hey, the guy blocked me. It's just like, calm down. It's not that big a deal. It's just run the numbers. And I think one of the best things that got me unstuck when I've hit those lulls, when I've hit those points in business where you kind of hit a brick wall and you feel like, is this ever going to get better? Yeah. Beth and I have been through that too. We're not bulletproof. What I've realized is this: trust the system, trust the numbers, trust the leadership. Peter Lencioni wrote a book called The Advantage, and we talk about the unfair advantages of the Alliance. The unfair advantages of the Alliance is our leadership team. The Andy Albrights, the Mike and Noah Leventoviches, the Andy and Angela Riddles, the Stephen and Holly Davies, the Avians, the Manleys. I shouldn't have started listing people because you're always going to leave somebody out, and I apologize for that. It's understanding that we have this unfair advantage because we have people who have the smoke of battle on them. They've been through the battles and they come out on the other side. We didn't always come out unscathed, but we always came out. And knowing that we can survive it tells you can survive it too. And so when you start understanding that the leadership team has your back and that together we can't be stopped, when you know that, then you can just kind of relax, take a deep breath. Everybody just go, this too shall pass. Whatever you're going through, this too shall pass. And you're going to come out the other side better and stronger for having gone through it. and knowing that there's a team of people. This is why the association is so important, folks. Knowing there's a team of people that have your back, that will be there to catch you and not let you fall. But you got to link arms with us to get there. But when you have that peace, that we have the systems in place, we're in the right place at the right time with the right people. And to me, the biggest thing is being with the right people. But right time, right place, right industry with the right people. Now you have all that peace about we're doing the right things and we're in a place we know is going to be successful. Now all you got to do is do the work. There's peace in knowing that all I got to do is the numbers. And then every phone call doesn't become life and death. And every application doesn't become life and death. And every recruit doesn't become life and death. Because you know what? I'm just doing the numbers anyway. And you can't beat the numbers, and the numbers can't beat you. Those of you trying to get to success, shortcutting the numbers, that's the longest path to success. Don't shortcut it. Just do the work, do the numbers, understand. And then when you get knocked off the line through the books, the audio, the association, get back on that line. That's why we do these conventions every 90 days, because it's like your cell phone. You know, if you let it get uncharged, then it's just a paperweight. I was going to pick Harry and Emily up from the Atlanta airport when the Verizon towers went down. And so I randomly picked an exit to find a Verizon. I was like, there's a lot of restaurants on this exit. There's always a Verizon in a strip mall somewhere along these where there's a lot of restaurants. So I was just driving through. I saw a T-Mobile. I said, there's T-Mobile. There's got to be a Verizon right near it. And so I found the Verizon, and I get to the Verizon store, and I'm loaded for bear. Fix my phone. I got to get to the airport. I have no way to communicate with them. I don't even know how to get there because my map is down. And there's a sign on the door saying all our towers are down. And it's just like, that'll be interesting. And so I asked somebody, hey, does anybody know how to get to the airport? And the guy gave me directions, old school directions, go on this road, then turn left, take this exit. I was like writing stuff down. and then I was just like walking on faith that somehow I would find Emily and Harry at the Atlanta airport looking for my car. And we found each other. It worked out well. But when those towers went down, how many people went into a full-blown panic? They couldn't communicate. And it was just like, it's annoying. It was frustrating. But what are you going to do? I don't control the towers. I can't control Verizon. I can't. It's just like we just kept moving forward with life because there was a piece about knowing who's in charge, who's got our back, and that all we got to do is keep showing up, and we will ultimately have the final victory. And that's the beauty of the Alliance, and that's the beauty of what we do. And that's what Dan has done. That's what Carolyn has done. That's what Harry and Emily are doing. And they're just they take the emotion out of it as best you can and just play the numbers. Liars figure, but figures don't lie. Trust the numbers, trust yourself, trust the leadership, trust the system. Go out there, win the day. Thank you, Alliance Nation. Thank you, Tia, for always having this set up for us. All we got to do is log in, and Tia and Eric and the whole corporate staff back there in Burlington always make this a seamless process for us to do these calls. Thank you, Andy Albright, for trusting us with your team to talk to your team today on this Friday activity call. And guys, I can't wait to give everybody a big hug, handshake, high five, whatever variety you like. I'm a hugger. I like getting hugs. But can't wait to see everybody at Dallas next week at our national convention. It's going to be a party. Remember, Friday night is cowboy theme. Wear your hat, wear your boots, wear your bolo ties, and cowboy up. And then Saturday night, the ring ceremony and all the award ceremony, all the recognition that's going to be happening. We're going to be suited and booted, as they say. We're going to be formal. We're going to be wearing tuxedos and formal. Beth will be in a formal gown. That's your chance to dress it up, guys. We want to honor the winners, and the way we do that is by showing up strong for those guys. And just can't wait to see all my buddies, all that education, all that inspiration that's going to carry us through. That's going to recharge our battery to get us through the next 90 days and to help change people's lives, including yours. Love you guys. Thank you, Dan, Carolyn, Harry. Thank you for joining us on this call. Tia, we did the best we could. We'll do better next time. We are out. See you guys next week in Dallas. Take care.